Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 67 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome aboard, and if you've been a loyal listener, welcome back. We have much to get to today and not a lot of time to do it. We have 5 sections that we'll get into: a general overview of the NBA this week, and our usual highlight, lowlight, random stat, and game of the week. Let's get to our content for the week. It took longer than expected, but on Tuesday, the NBA finally announced the most coveted regular season award, Most Valuable Player. Superstar guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder claimed his first MVP, beating out Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets and Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. Jokic has won 3 of the last 4 MVPs, so voter fatigue probably played a part for Gilgeous-Alexander. That's not to say SGA didn't deserve it. Averaging a career-high 32.7 points per game, which led the league, as well as a career-high 6.4 assists and 1 block per game, set him apart this season. He's put the Thunder back on the map. Oklahoma City is only 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. I personally don't think Gilgeous-Alexander will be a one-and-done MVP. Only time will tell. The Denver Nuggets have found a new head coach. Well, sort of. More like they dropped the interim tag off the guy already there. David Adelman has been promoted to head coach after leading Denver 1 game short of the Western Conference Finals. The Nuggets went to 7 games in both series, winning against the LA Clippers and bowing out to the Thunder. He also won his 3 regular season games he coached following Michael Malone's firing. Denver team president and governor Josh Kroenke liked the 44-year-old Adelman's accountability and open communication, which gave Adelman an advantage in the job search. This will be Adelman's first head coaching role in the pros, but he was the head coach at Lincoln High School, which is on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. He was an assistant coach at Jesuit High School near Portland, and in the pros he's assisted with Minnesota, Orlando, and Denver. Finally, the all-defensive and all-NBA teams are out. On the all-defensive first team, we have Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors, Dyson Daniels of the Atlanta Hawks, Lou Dort of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets. The second team has Toumani Camara of the Portland Trailblazers, Rudy Gobert of the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies, Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Ivica Zubac of the LA Clippers. Switching to the All-NBA first team, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets, Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks, Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics, and Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The second team consists of Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks, Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves, LeBron James of the LA Lakers, and Evan Mobley for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The third team went to Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons, Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers, James Harden of the LA Clippers, Karl Anthony Towns of the New York Knicks, and Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Mobley and Williams made a defensive team and All-NBA team. For both, it was almost their firsts in each category, except this is Mobley's second All-Defensive selection. Well deserved for all these players. This episode is entitled Preeminence. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment? Let's go to our highlight, the Oklahoma City Thunder. There are times when you watch a team and say, yep, this team might win it all. The Oklahoma City Thunder fit this scenario well. The Thunder are up 2-1 in the Western Conference Finals versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. All of the games so far in this series have been blowouts of at least 15 points or more. While Oklahoma City was destroyed in Minnesota in Game 3, they took care of business in the opening 2 games at home. As we mentioned in the opener, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was crowned MVP. Gilgeous-Alexander nearly had back-to-back double-doubles in Games 1 and 2, dropping 31 points and 9 assists in Game 1 and 38 and 8 in Game 2. He also added 3 steals in each. Besides the usual dominance from Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, Alex Caruso has been a menace off the bench. He may not be racking up 10 steals a night or anything, but his impact on lockdown defense is amazing. Man, the team's lockdown defense, like Lou Dort and Cason Wallace, is amazing. One example was Oklahoma City completely neutralizing the hot hand of Julius Randle in Game 2. This series is going to a minimum of 5. We can't wait. Game 4 is tonight, Monday, May 26th at 8:30 as the series continues in Minnesota. Let's go to our lowlight, the New York Knicks. Just because you take down the defending champions doesn't mean the job is done. The New York Knicks are down 2-1 to the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks had an all-time collapse in Game 1 at home. Coming into Wednesday, teams leading a playoff game by 14 or more points in the final 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the fourth quarter since 1997 were 994-0. That record is now 994-1. Yes, I know it's an ESPN type stat. Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton even pulled out the infamous Reggie Miller choke celebration to rub it in. Miller, the Pacers legend, made a choking motion when he scored 25 points in the fourth quarter against the Knicks in Game 5 of the 1994 Eastern Conference Finals. Halliburton, thinking he'd hit the game-winning buzzer beater, did the same and pointed to Miller, who was on the TNT broadcast. Miller pointed back in approval. The shot was actually ruled a two-pointer that sent the game to overtime, but Indiana still won. As payback, New York took Game 3 after being down 20 points. Karl Anthony Towns had 20 points and 8 rebounds in the fourth quarter alone. He was mostly on the bench in the fourth quarter in Game 2 because the Knicks had some momentum with him off the floor. There's been plenty of drama in this series, and it ain't done yet. Game 4 is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 27th at 8 o'clock in Indiana. Let's head over to our random stat. Athletes can show their full potential in the playoffs, and it's amazing when they do it early in their careers. Minnesota Timberwolves superstar Anthony Edwards is just the third guard in NBA history to record 15 or more 30-point playoff games before turning 24 years old. Who are the other two? Luka Doncic and Kobe Bryant. Those are definitely two good names to be next to. Edwards has already had 5 30-point playoff games in just this current run. 2 of them came in their last 2 games, 32 and 30 respectively. One of them was a 43-point game over the Lakers in the first round. Edwards is in his 5th year with the Timberwolves, and his accolades speak for themselves. Back-to-back All-NBA second-team selections and 3 straight All-Star appearances. His points per game have increased every year, too, as his 27.6 average was 4th in the league this season. Since Edwards' arrival in 2020, he has breathed life into a franchise that struggled in regards to postseason success. Some fans are ready to crown Ant-Man as one of, if not the face of the NBA, especially if Minnesota wins the championship. We'll see what happens in the coming games, but Ant-Man is on a heck of a start to his career. Finally, let's go to Game of the Week. For this week's Game of the Week, we're going to do the New York Knicks at Indiana Pacers. This game is tomorrow, Tuesday, May 27th at 8 o'clock, and it's Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. As we said in the lowlight, this series has been wild thus far. The New York choke in Game 1. Karl Anthony Towns being sidelined in crunch time in Game 2. The Indiana choke in Game 3. Now that both teams have won, we're going to at least a Game 5 on Thursday. But let's backtrack to Game 4. Jalen Brunson is averaging 34 points and 5.7 assists in this series. Tyrese Halliburton had consecutive road double-doubles, which included 11 assists each. 48 minutes of solid defense from one of these teams will go a long way in determining who wins. In Game 3, the Pacers were locking everybody up in the first half. In the second half, the Knicks were stifling. Give me the Pacers, 105-99. To get more insight into our Game of the Week this week, we have our 17th guest on Diehlman at Halftime Season 2. Let's get into it. So for our 17th guest of Season 2 on the Diehlman at Halftime podcast, we welcome Rod Boone. Rod is a Charlotte Hornets beat writer for the Charlotte Observer. He's been a sports writer for over 20 years, spanning high school rodeos to the Super Bowl and NBA Finals. Rod is a native of Long Island, New York, and he has a mass communications degree from Auburn University, Montgomery. Rod, how are we doing today?
Doing good. What's happening, Larry? How you doing today, man?
Pretty good. We're right near Memorial Day weekend, so a lot going on in the NBA. So, Rod, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Knicks-Pacers series. They are our game of the week, and as of this recording, the Pacers have a 1-0 lead at Madison Square Garden, a surprising game indeed. So my first question for you, when it was decided that New York and Indiana would face off in the Eastern Conference Finals, were you surprised, or was it expected, or maybe you were expecting at least one of the two to be there? In my playoff bracket, I had Cavs-Celtics. Oops.
Yeah, I think most people like you, Larry, had Cavs Celtics. I mean, maybe you can think about maybe one team getting there, maybe the Pacers, if things worked out because they got those first couple of games in Cleveland. But as you know, like the NBA has been kind of crazy this postseason. It hasn't really been according to script. So they actually say for sure you knew that they would have Pacers and Knicks for the championship to actually get a chance in the NBA Finals. I mean, come on, man. Nobody had that one. So I think I'm really surprised to see this not only transpire, but also see what happened in Game 1 in the Garden. I mean, when you are the Knicks and they're up by that big of a margin and actually did it twice to Boston in the previous round, you figure you're going to close that kind of game out. But to not actually have them win that game and to go into Game 2, it's a must-win scenario, is really surprising me. So if they can get that Game 2, it'll be a really tough series to actually win going forward.
Definitely an eye-opener. The Pacers have just been surprising every team that they face and really just going on the road and taking control. Obviously, the old catchphrase, the series doesn't start until the road team wins. Well, Game 1 and the series has already started, I guess. Definitely an interesting game, and I'd say a shocker. And I saw a stat. I forget the exact number, but it was like this big number, like 900 or 9,000 or something to 1 when they were leading by like a certain number, and the Knicks are now that 1. So definitely one of the all-time chokes. So my next question for you, both Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges have shown why the Knicks traded for them this past offseason. Do you think New York would still have a chance to get this far even if they had kept most of their roster intact from last year? So like Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Remember, they lost Game 7 to Indiana in the Eastern Conference semifinals because they were basically fielding the all-hospital squad. Jalen Brunson got hurt in Game 7. They would not have survived at all had they made it against Boston last year. But with this core this year versus last year, do you think the Knicks would have gotten this far?
You know, that's a good question. I think last year's team, as you mentioned, kind of got banged up toward the end there with DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. And you kind of look at how they are performing now with the Timberwolves and say the trade worked out probably for both teams. But from New York perspective, I think this team, this roster is better because Cat is basically an all-star. You add an all-star, down there to be able to go inside, outside. You have Mikal Bridges, who's one of the best two-way players out there as well. And it's like you have a better core. So I feel like this year's team is built to get past this round. So they don't get past the Pacers, considering that they got past the number one team most people felt in Boston. It'll be a big disappointment in many people's eyes if you're a Knicks fan because the Pacers team, for the most part, it still remains intact from last year. You got a couple different things here or there, but for the most part, you got to those last year, a game 7 with those guys. So to not be able to get that far, beat them this year for a chance to get to the NBA Finals, to me would be a big miss in the next part. So I think this roster, in my mind, is better than last year's roster. The core is right there. So this is right now, as you can see, with stuck on the way it is in the playoffs, you're not guaranteed to get here again. So if you're the Knicks, you got to go for the gusto right now because next year you're not sure if you get back here to this point for sure.
The Celtics obviously were like the standard going into this season, and now that Tatum is out for the count pretty much for all of next season, and with Cleveland, who knows how good they're going to be next year, if they're going to go far. Like, this is the chance, like you said, for everybody, and not just in the Eastern Conference, but also in the Western Conference. The Pacers and the Timberwolves both back in the conference finals for the second year in a row. The Thunder taking advantage, and the Knicks should take advantage too, just because of this roster. You go for these home run balls with Bridges and Towns, not just one or the other, but both. And like you said, it being a win-win scenario. So I definitely agree that this roster is better than last year, and we will see if they can recover from that game one collapse as the series goes on in game two and in Indiana. So next, Indiana took down the Milwaukee Bucks and the Cleveland Cavaliers so far, despite Damian Lillard and Darius Garland, respectively, being injured and not playing up to their standards. Do you believe the Pacers would have steamrolled Milwaukee and Cleveland even if both teams were healthy? And what has stood out to you about Indiana as of this point with them?
The Pacers are one of those really weird teams. Like, I mean that in a good way because you figure like you have them kind of pegged what they should be, then they go out there and surprise you. So with Milwaukee and Cleveland both being banged up, it's hard to say for sure they would have got past those guys. If you have Dame, healthy, if you have, Giannis and everybody doing their normal thing, and then Cleveland was one of the best teams in the East, as you mentioned, the entire season. So when they had a couple guys banged up too, this time of year, that really hurts your chemistry. It really hurts how you kind of move forward. So you don't want to discredit what the Pacers have done because you can't just say, they were healthy for sure, they would get this far. To me, Indiana, I think they're giving credit about their being really resilient. They're one of those teams that can go out there and just find ways to win. And this time of year, it's all that really matters. You cannot have the best maybe game, the best quarter, the best even half. But if you can find ways to get into crunch time, when the lights get a little bit brighter, guys get a little bit more tense, and it depends on who wants that big shot more. The Pacers, as we can see the last couple of seasons, have actually like thrived in those situations. So to me, I think those guys being resilient is something that you can't discredit. So if both teams, Cleveland and Milwaukee, were both healthy, would they have been the same road for Indiana? I'm not sure, but again, with Halliburton doing what he's doing, taking that personal about him being, most overrated player in the NBA, voted by his peers in the athletic poll, I think that the Pacers right now are hard to beat. So they're really hot. And I'm not sure if right now, if Cleveland and Milwaukee both were fully healthy, that a hot Pacers team couldn't take them down in 7 games.
And I think with like you said, with Lillard and Garland, and there was that one Cleveland game, it was like Garland, Hunter, and Mobley. That's like two starters and a bench player. Like, how are you supposed to, perform efficiently when there goes your defensive player of the year, there goes your Robin to the Donovan Mitchell Batman, there goes your bench piece in DeAndre Hunter. So the Cavs really got banged up. And then Lillard, I believe, tore his Achilles. So that definitely did not help. But yeah, the Pacers have just been, I guess what you want to call a wild card. They just come out of nowhere. They got Pascal Siakam last year, and they have really took off. And just the rotation they have, Aaron Nesmith has stepped up. Guys like Andrew Nemhard, he's a great piece. Miles Turner's been there for a hot minute. So this Pacers roster is definitely built for the moment, and Tyrese Halliburton is showing why he is one of the best players in the NBA. And I know Kings fans, seeing as they had him first, probably the Kings front office kicking themselves right now, like, oh man, we could have had him, but I guess that was not in the cards.
Well, the thing about Rick Carlisle too, as a coach, I mean, obviously he comes back and they've been really good since he's been back there. He's kind of one of those guys who kind of methodical, has his own methods, but he's done a really good job there. You can't just discredit what he's done because to be able to get this team again and back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals when nobody thought they probably didn't get to even one, shows what he does. And being out there in the Midwest, Indiana's a small market, so you probably should get a little more credit than what he deserves. But he's actually been a really good coach for them, and he should get credit as well to prove people that he actually can get the teams to this level and beyond.
In the last couple years, he's worked with Luka Doncic in Dallas. Now he's got Tyrese Halliburton in Indiana. So this man definitely has had some great success in the last few years, and we will see if it catapults them to the NBA Finals. So to wrap up, who do you think takes this series and why? How many games do you think it goes? And do you have a hot take?
Well, this is a really tough series to pick because, as you mentioned, with that game one kind of going a little wacko and the Knicks kind of having it control, it felt like there was a series for them to basically lose. Now, when you go into a must-win game scenario in your own home court on game two, let's just say they actually win on Friday night and it's 1-1 going into Indiana on Sunday. Then, if you're the Knicks, then you kind of are, let's say you're back in control, but you kind of balance things a little bit more and you have a little bit more leeway and room to kind of go out there and finish the series. But I think it's going to go at least minimum 6 games, more like probably 7 now because of what happened in game one. So I think the hot take, if you want to have a hot take, is I feel like this is one of those series that the winner is not going to probably win the NBA Finals because I think the OKC Thunder is just really, really tough to beat. But I really believe that the winner of this series between Knicks and Pacers is going to be a team to actually be reckoned with next year. Basically, the team to beat next year, because as you mentioned, with Boston potentially being different because they're missing the top all-star and Jason Tatum probably for the entire year. I'm not sure about what's going to happen in Philadelphia, other places. So to me, if you're the Pacers or the Knicks and you win this series, go to the finals, you have a good shot to get back here next year if, again, if, as we talk about, health falls your way and you make a couple of maybe all-season moves to kind of make you get back here to where you should be. But I really believe that these two teams can be back here next year if all works out for them in the offseason especially.
I like where you're going with that. I don't think this is going fewer than 5 or 6. Probably lean on the side of caution. We'll go with, I'd say, about 6 games. I think Indiana should is the key word there, should have enough to win this series. The Knicks, I mean, if they tie at 1-1 and going back to Indiana, they're right back in the series. It's all right. If Indiana steals both games at the Garden, it might be wraps. I don't know how you can recover from such a great home court advantage in the Garden and then just losing both games. We saw it with the Cavs. Once it was 2-0, it was pretty much over. And I like your hot
Same with
take.
Boston Celtics series.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that too. I mean, they had no chance. Like you lose the TD Garden advantage, like what are you good for?
Got to win 4 straight games. And it's not like saying you can't do that, but in the playoffs, to win 4 straight games against teams of this caliber at this level, at this round of playoffs, is tough to do, man.
No, definitely. I like your hot take too. Yeah, I don't know if anyone can stop Oklahoma City right now because they've had a lot of blowouts. They kicked the Grizzlies to the curb.
They played Denver to 7 games. So you get all these different things kind of going on here with this team. And you say, wait a minute, why is this team so good and like so under the radar? I think it's just because they just are again a small market and people talk about the Warriors and the Lakers and the Mavericks and these big market teams, but OKC is hard to beat. And they have the MVP on top of that. And I think he hasn't even played one of his best games of the playoffs just yet, which is really, really scary, man.
Yeah, so they kicked the Grizzlies to the curb. They got the Nuggets out of there in 7. And game two, it's like they're already up 2-0, and Julius Randle disappeared in game two. Like he was out for the entire fourth quarter, and not because of injury, just because, oh, you're having a terrible shooting night, get out. But I don't know who can beat that Thunder team. But as of right now in the Eastern Conference Finals, I would say for a hot take, let's go with maybe Brunson has a clunker when they need him to, like maybe game 3 or 4, roughly. Maybe he has a clunker because you can't, unless your name is LeBron James, you're not going to have 40-point games every night and expect to win. So maybe Brunson has a clunker eventually, but I do think Indiana wins maybe in 6. So, Rod, thank you for coming on to the Diehlman at Halftime podcast, and we hope to get you on in the future.
You got it, Larry. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate you having me on for sure.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on social media. I have 2 X or Twitter accounts and 2 Instagram accounts. The podcast accounts are under @Diehlman_NBA for both X and Instagram. My personal X account is @LarryDiehlman18, and my personal Instagram is @Mr_Sports18. They're also in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you to Rod Boone for being our guest this week on the podcast. Remember, you can follow him on X @RodBoone and Instagram @RodBoo. And don't forget to spread the word about Diehlman at halftime. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.